Okay, so this is our fifth lesson in our measuring time unit. This is called elapsed time, and it's actually based off of some sheets that I have put aside on elapsed time and duration because Math Focus 4 does not focus, no pun intended, on this concept. Um, but it is part of the grade 4 or 5 curriculum, so it's something that needs to be looked at. It's an important part to know what elapsed time is. So I guess the question to begin is, what is elapsed time? Elapsed time is how much time has passed between two given times. So you're given one time like 5:10, and you're given it which is a start time and an end time at 5:30. So you need to find out how many minutes or hours have passed between those times. Now, if we look at 5:10 to 5:30 here, we're going to count by fives on the analog clock. I'm also going to show you another way to do it where you simply just subtract the difference between the two um, times. But let's begin. So from 5:10 to 5:30, it shows here that there's a dotted line which represents where the minute hand was. So at 5:10 the minute hand was on the 2. At 5:30 we know that the minute hand is on the 6. So the question here is how much time has passed between the 2 and the 6 on the clock. And the way to simply do that is skip count by 5. So 5, 10, 15, 20. So between 5:10 and 5:30, 20 minutes have passed. There's another way to do this where I can just take the first time of 5:30 and subtract it from 5:10. Since we're only working within 1 hour, the 5 o'clock hour, we don't really have to concern ourselves with the hours. We know no hours have passed. So let's take a look at the minutes. So this is 30, take away 10. Well, 30 take away 10 is 20. So that tells me as well that 20 minutes have passed between 5:10 and 5:30. Let's take a look at another question. So they want us to count by fives to show how much time has elapsed between 8:45 and 9:20. I can go back to the clock and imagine 8:45 and 9:20. So 8:45, when the minute hand's on the 9, it's 45. And I know that when it's on the 4, it's 20 minutes past the hour. So I go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. 35 minutes. But say I didn't have an analog clock. Well, I can still do this quite easily. Just skip count by 5. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. Because this is 8:45, 8:50, 8:55, 9 o'clock, 9:05, 9:10, 9:15, 9:20. So 35 minutes have elapsed. Another way to look at it without doing all the skip counting by fives is to know that I know that when it's 8:45 at 9:15, a half hour will have passed. But it's asking me for 9:20, so all I go do is add 5 more minutes to 30 minutes, and we get 35 minutes. So there's multiple ways you can do this. Let's take a look at another question. Carl studied at 7:25 and finished at 8:10. How long did he study? Well, a couple ways we can do this. The first way is to use the analog clock. I know when it's at 7:25, the minute hand would be on the 5. I also know that at 8:10, the hand will be on the 2. So I skip count by fives from the 5 to the 2. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45. So I know it's 45 minutes have elapsed. So that's how long he studied. He studied for 45 minutes. Another way I can do this, though, is to look at the time. I know that 7:25 is very close to 7:30. It's just 5 minutes before 7:30. So I know between 7:30 and 8 o'clock, that's a half an hour. I have to add the 5 minutes that I didn't include at the beginning. That makes it 35 minutes. But then I know there's 10 minutes after 8, so 35 plus 10 is 45 minutes. These are just 2 or 3 ways that you can do it. If you have an analog clock, it's probably the easiest way to do it. But if you have a bit stronger number sense, you can do subtraction or just use a benchmark and then tack on numbers before and after. Let's take a look at another one on the next page. Now these ones I want to show you, find how much time has passed between the times in bold. Intervals are not shown to scale. No kidding. So it tells us that we have 20 minutes, 2 hours, and 5 minutes. So all we have to do here is just add these up. Start with your hours. Get your hours out of the way. So we know we have 2 hours and then 20 plus 5. 2 hours and 25 minutes. Now, you'll notice also down here that there are another 5-minute interval ones. And then you'll also have these ones where you actually subtract, like I've already shown you. Let's take a look at the other elapsed time sheet I have. Now these are word problems, so they're a little bit on the different side. And also, they don't work in 5-minute intervals. They have different weird times. Don't let them intimidate you though. So we'll just do one question, and you'll understand what I mean. Sylvester began reading her book at 7:48 p.m. Never heard Sylvester as a girl's name, but okay. And finished at 9:10 p.m. How long did Sylvester read? Now, what differentiates this from the previous questions is you got a time like 7:48. If we look at an analog clock, 7:48, the minute hand is not perfectly on a number. It's in between a number. As a matter of fact, it's in between the 9 and the 10. So let's pretend for a minute that it's 7:50. Okay? And we'll count from 7:50. So we'll go back to my analog clock. And I want to be counting from 7:50 to 9:10. All right? Also worth noting is the hour here. 7:48 is close to 8 o'clock. So we know that there's at least an hour that passes here because 8:48 would be an hour. So we know that there's an hour and some odd minutes. Okay? So let's try this again. 7:48. Let's pretend it's 7:50. Okay? So we'll go around. So here's 7:50, 7:55, 8 o'clock, 8:05, 8:10, right? So we know that there's 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes here. However, remember that we would technically be starting here with 2 more minutes. So it's 22 minutes. And the reason I stopped at 8:10 is because I know we end at 9:10. Between 8:10 and 9:10, there's an hour. So the time that has elapsed here, if you think about it, is 1 hour and 22 minutes. Let's try another one. Mr. Jennings goes to work at 7:30 a.m. He comes home at 5:46 p.m. Now, that's a long duration of time with many hours that he's at work. So how long does he work for? Well, there's an easier way to do this. Let's pretend he comes home at 5:30. So we'll go 7:30 to 8:30, that's 1 hour. 8:30 to 9:30, that's 2 hours. 9:30 to 10:30, that's 3 hours. So at 10:30 he's been at work for 3 hours. 10:30 to 11:30, that's 4 hours. 11:30 to 12:30, that's 5 hours. 12:30 to 1:30, that's 6 hours. 1:30 to 2:30, that's 7 hours. 2:30 to 3:30, that's 8 hours. 3:30 to 4:30, that's 9 hours. 4:30 to 5:30, that's 10 hours. So we know it's 10 hours, right? By 5:30. So the question is, well, if it's 10 hours by 5:30, how many minutes are there extra? Well, we got 5:46. So we got to tack on the last few minutes from 5:46. So if you think about it, well, 5:45, between 5:45 and 5:30 would be, or 5:30 to 5:45 would be 15 minutes. This is just one extra minute, so it's 16 minutes. So if you think about it, from 7:30 a.m. to 5:46 p.m., Mr. Jennings is at work for 10 hours and 16 minutes. I hope this is clear, and if you have any questions, you may contact me on Microsoft Teams or email me. Thanks. Take care.